Today, we're not just talking about recovery, we're talking about retribution. Not the one you seek, but the one that happens naturally. A silent, psychological death sentence handed down by your own liberation. You have always been told about hoovering attempts and smear campaigns, but few ever talk about the singular weapon you possess that renders every single one of their tactics utterly useless, sending them into a spiral of agonizing, irreversible self-destruction. For years, you lived under a spell, believing your emotional state was tethered to their approval, their mood, or their erratic presence. They trained you to be a perpetual source of supply, feeding them with your reactivity. Your tears were currency, your arguments were energy, and your fear was their sustaining fuel. The narcissist built their entire false self on the bedrock your emotional dependence, assuring themselves that they held the keys to your happiness, and more importantly, the keys to your pain. The single thing they fear most is a reality where you are not just surviving without them, but where you are actively thriving with a peace so profound it is unshakable. This is the ultimate nightmare we speak of. It isn't a new relationship or a financial success. It is the quiet, undeniable radiance of a soul that has found its internal center, a soul whose light is sourced entirely outside their control. This inner peace is the psychological equivalent of total annihilation for the narcissist. Picture the scene. You are calm, centered, and genuinely content, perhaps sharing a simple laugh with a friend, or simply enjoying a quiet moment alone. When the narcissist witnesses this unforced, untainted joy, they don't see happiness. They see evidence of their own redundancy. They see a self-sufficient human being, and that sight immediately triggers the oldest, deepest wound within them, the shame of being inadequate, replaceable, and fundamentally unnecessary. The contract of their dynamic was simple. You would remain dependent, and they would remain the indispensable star of your world. When your emotional self-sufficiency shines, it tears up that contract. Your peace is a mirror that reflects the absolute hollowness behind their mask, forcing them to confront the profound truth that the only thing stopping them from being as calm as you are is the very pathology they refuse to acknowledge. They might try to minimize it, to quickly dismiss your contentment as a temporary facade, or a performance designed to annoy them. Oh, they're just putting on a brave face, they'll tell themselves, desperately trying to maintain the internal narrative that you are still secretly grieving and waiting for them to return. But when the peace persists, when your smile remains authentic and unforced for weeks or months, the delusion begins to crack. This unshakable inner peace is terrifying because it bypasses all of their established manipulative tools. How do you argue with silence? How do you hoover someone who genuinely requires nothing from you? How do you trigger rage in a heart that is no longer invested in your drama? The answer is simple. You can't. Your calm detachment is a wall of psychological non-reactivity that renders their most powerful weapons, fear, guilt, and chaos, totally inert. When they realize they can no longer generate a reaction, not a tear, not a furious text, not even a defensive pause, the narcissist experiences what is known as extinction burst. The frantic attempts to provoke you will escalate wildly, like a child banging harder on a toy that has already broken. They will try old tactics with new, desperate intensity, but if you maintain that impenetrable wall of peace, the burst eventually subsides into terrifying silence. It is the ultimate psychological failure. They are emotional vampires who have discovered that their primary food source has become inert, like a battery that refuses to output energy. This forced starvation of supply forces them into an internal withdrawal, an agonizing process where they are left alone with the one entity they dread above all others, their own unmasked, deeply wounded self. The peace you now hold is not just a personal victory. It is a clinical demonstration of their failure to secure permanent psychological control. It signifies the successful execution of your escape plan, the permanent severing of the toxic cord that fed them for so long. The question then is not what they will do next, but how does their fragile inner world survive the trauma of realizing that your freedom is absolutely non-negotiable? Now, let's delve into the psychological collapse that begins the moment your peace takes root. To truly understand the narcissist's panic, we must look into the core fantasy they maintain, the illusion of false omnipotence. They believe they possess an almost godlike ability to shape reality, specifically your reality. Your calm demeanor, the physical manifestation of your unshakable peace, shatters this belief instantly. If you are fine, thriving, and stable without their intervention, Their perceived power is revealed as utterly fictitious. Your persistent, low-key happiness triggers an intense, agonizing feeling of shame. Narcissistic shame is not simply embarrassment, it is the deep-seated, unbearable conviction that they are fundamentally defective and unlovable. They project this shame outward, needing others to carry their negativity. When you achieve peace, you drop their shame at their feet, forcing them to briefly re-internalize the very feeling they have spent their entire life running from. This is why their reaction is often rage, not sadness. Sadness is an integrated human emotion. Rage is a defensive tool. The moment they feel the cold touch of their own internal shame, they reflexively deploy rage as a shield. They lash out at your joy, attempting to destroy it and replace it with your fear or confusion, simply because those negative states are the only environment in which their fragile ego feels safe and dominant. The dynamic of splitting dictates that you must be all bad, and they must be all good. Your peace introduces cognitive dissonance. How can the person they designated as bad, crazy, or unstable suddenly radiate such calm stability? They must immediately distort the reality of your happiness, labeling it as malevolent. They convince themselves that your calm is not genuine, but a cold, calculated performance designed specifically to mock and punish them. Every healthy boundary you established, every moment you prioritized your well-being over their demands, was an act of self-care. But to the narcissist, these acts are seen as deliberate acts of war. Your peace is merely the victory celebration of the person who abandoned and betrayed them. They cannot process the concept of self-preservation. They can only process the injury to their supreme entitlement. Their internal defense mechanisms will rapidly deploy a campaign of mental minimization. They will pore over every social media post, every shared word, searching for any tiny flaw or sign of stress. The desperate need is to find evidence that your peace is a lie, a temporary illusion. If they can find one crack, a tired look, a stressed moment, they can re-inflate their ego with the narrative that you are in fact still suffering and still secretly dependent on their return. Your non-reactivity proves that you are no longer playing their game. And this is the most terrifying realization of all. The game was the relationship, and the rules were simple. They create chaos, and you respond with energy. When you choose stillness instead, you are taking the ball and walking off the field entirely. The game is instantly over, and the narcissist is left standing alone in the silent arena of their own performance, with no audience to applaud them. This forced isolation accelerates the depletion of their emotional reserves. They are constantly searching for external validation, but the profound silence coming from your corner is now a massive, echoing hole in their supply chain. They become emotionally exhausted, forced to burn through their remaining energy attempting to convince new people, or even themselves, of their fictional superiority. The quiet dignity you carry represents something they can never possess: earned self-worth. Their worth is rented, contingent upon the praise of others. Your worth is internal, solid, and built from the trauma they inflicted, but failed to destroy. When they see the permanence of your peace, it forces a painful comparison to their own brittle, temporary happiness, causing an internal friction that leads to genuine, observable mental distress. This psychological breakdown means the mask is now under immense, unsustainable pressure. The smooth, charming exterior they presented to the world requires constant maintenance, but your unshakable peace acts like an unrelenting emotional acid, eroding the mask's foundation. It's no longer about getting you back. It's about surviving the existential threat that your very existence now poses. We're about to witness the dramatic turning point. The turning point is not a single event, but the moment the narcissist realizes, with chilling finality, that their control is permanently lost. They will have exhausted all standard measures. The hoovering was met with silence, the smear campaign failed to shatter your social standing, and the attempts at gaslighting simply bounced off your solid inner conviction. The realization that their power switch is now off forever sends them into a catastrophic internal meltdown. Their behavior shifts from calculated, cold malice to a hot, desperate, and often clumsy rage. This is not strategic. The rage is a sign of complete system failure, the sound of their emotional regulation crashing entirely. It is pure, uncontrolled fury directed at the universe for allowing you to escape, and at you for daring to live well. This outburst is often theatrical and shocking, designed only to force you back into the old script of fear and confusion. This impotent rage is fueled by a terrifying cocktail of envy and narcissistic injury. Envy turns to fury when they see the effortless ease of your life post-escape. They are still struggling, still performing, still hunting for supply, while you are simply being. The lack of effort on your part highlights the immense, exhausting energy they must perpetually expend just to maintain a fragile illusion of competency. A key tactic during this turn is the immediate frantic devaluation of you to any new source of supply. They must quickly rewrite the history to assure the new audience that your piece is fake, that you are the truly toxic one, and that they are the noble victim who managed to escape. This is a desperate attempt to shore up their own worth by destroying yours, but it's executed poorly, often sounding paranoid and irrational to objective outsiders. You may witness the mask slip entirely, in moments of great stress, perhaps a fleeting moment in public, or a desperate final phone call. You might see a terrifying glimpse of the true, frightened core beneath the facade. The sudden lack of composure, the uncontrolled tremor in their voice, or the exaggerated malice in their eyes, are all physical symptoms of the narcissistic injury inflicted by your sustained self-sufficiency. They will attempt a final, dramatic play, often shifting gears to an immediate false vulnerability. This last-ditch Hoover attempt is designed to exploit your inherent empathy, hoping to turn your well-earned peace into debilitating guilt. They might confess to an unrelated minor fault or promise profound change, anything to pull you back into the toxic cycle where your happiness can once again be controlled by their emotional drama. The power of your peace is that it turns their manipulation on its head. When they try to trigger your old wound, the wound is simply gone, sealed by time and healing. Their desperate pokes and prods find no raw nerve, and the emotional energy they expend simply dissipates into the void. They are essentially yelling into a silent cavern, realizing the profound terror that their words no longer hold the power to shape your reality. Crucially, the narcissist realizes that you have achieved an unbridgeable psychological distance. You are operating on a completely different frequency of maturity and peace, a depth of contentment they cannot reach. This psychological gap is what separates the survivor from the perpetrator, and this realization drives them to increasing levels of erratic, impulsive behavior, making them less strategically manipulative than ever before. This turning point is the clear signal that they have exhausted their own internal resources. They are forced to rely solely on external triggers, and when those external triggers fail to ignite your old reactions, the engine of their false self stalls entirely. The visible strain and fatigue become undeniable, a quiet physical manifestation of the mental toll exacted by their failed attempts to conquer your inner life. The sustained, quiet refusal to engage with their manufactured crisis is the most devastating move you can make. It demonstrates that you have not only moved on, but that you are no longer interested in even serving as an audience member for their continued performance. This definitive total withdrawal of your emotional energy initiates the fourth, darker phase, the slow, agonizing collapse and consequences of their isolated world. The immediate consequence of their failed attack is a rapid deepening of their internal isolation. They are surrounded by people, new supply, old friends, but they feel profoundly, existentially alone. The primary source of their self-regulation, the manipulation of your emotions, is gone. They are forced to spend time with the emptiness that your genuine happiness exposed, an emptiness they cannot fill with fleeting external praise. The social consequences begin to stack up quietly. The narcissist's sudden irrational reaction to your simple, quiet life becomes a public data point that heavily contradicts their victim narrative. Friends, family, and colleagues may notice the pattern. One person radiates peace, while the other descends into an inexplicable, aggressive frenzy. This external recognition slowly but surely erodes their carefully constructed social credibility. Your persistent peace now serves as a constant, subtle form of non-contact accountability. Every time they catch a glimpse of your life, every time your success is shared, it is a non-verbal affirmation that they were the problem, and that their toxicity was the only obstacle to your flourishing. This realization drives a relentless, self-flagellating spiral of shame that they immediately project outward, making them even more bitter. The frantic hunt for replacement supply accelerates, but the quality of that supply inevitably deteriorates. Driven by desperation, they seek instant, high-octane gratification to medicate the wound left by your authentic joy. This quick turnover and increasingly desperate consumption of new people lead to relationships that are shallower, shorter, and less fulfilling, further compounding their deep core sense of being unlovable. The emotional flatlining soon sets in. The intense energy of their final rage burns out, replaced by a heavy, profound fatigue. This is the psychological toll of fighting a reality they cannot defeat, the weariness of a perpetual actor who is finally forced to lower the curtain. They become emotionally sterile, incapable of accessing genuine feeling, and trapped in a monotonous, repetitive cycle of self-pity and paranoid resentment. As their control diminishes, their internal dialogue escalates into a relentless cycle of self-hatred, which is immediately disguised as extreme external blame. They cannot process the shame of their failure, so the entire world is blamed for their misfortune, including the universe for rewarding you instead of them. This irrational paranoia isolates them further, pushing away even the most naive people who try to offer them superficial support. They begin to recognize in rare, cold moments of clarity the immense opportunity cost of their pathology. The genuine connections, the deep loyalty and the emotional intimacy you offered, all destroyed by their relentless need for control. This sudden brief clarity is terrifying, because it forces them to acknowledge that their life is built on a foundation of lies, a thought they immediately flee from back into the safety of their grandiosity. The collapse of the narrative is one of the most severe consequences. They lose the ability to tell the story of the relationship with themselves as the hero or the victim. Your thriving, peaceful life becomes the ultimate, undeniable proof that the story they maintained was false, painting them not as a partner, but as a toxic obstacle that had to be overcome for you to achieve peace. They permanently lose control over their own public history. As their world crumbles, the internal agony deepens, and the only reliable escape mechanism they find is the indulgence of dark fantasies. They become obsessed with your downfall, dreaming up elaborate, often petty scenarios of your life falling apart. This revenge-driven preoccupation is the only thing that distracts them from the deep, ugly shame they feel inside, their final, desperate way to feel powerful again in the lonely fortress of their mind. The crushing, final truth is that the narcissist is the one who is truly trapped. They are stuck in a prison built by their own refusal to evolve, forced to live a lie and search forever for a lasting happiness they can neither create nor earn. But that darkness is no longer your problem. It's time to turn our focus back to you, the survivor, and the bright, unbreakable light of your own freedom. The final truth awaits. What is the magnificent final truth that separates your bright future from their inevitable self-imposed prison? For you, the ultimate sign that you have won isn't watching them fail or suffer. It is the powerful, revolutionary realization that their drama and agony simply do not matter to you anymore. Your peace is real, your joy is strong, and your path ahead doesn't depend on their existence in any way. The only thing that counts is the steady, quiet life you have built, a powerful, impenetrable sanctuary against any storm they try to send. The greatest healing truth you need to internalize is simple. The narcissist's meltdown, their shame, and their panic are entirely about them. It has absolutely nothing to do with who you are or what you did. Their broken reality is the natural, painful consequence of a lifetime of avoiding truth and rejecting responsibility. Your recovery didn't break them, it just pulled away the last necessary support from a shaky structure that was always destined to fall. Now, you must fully embrace the immense relief of dropping that colossal emotional weight that was never yours to carry in the first place. Reflect on the endless energy you once wasted trying to fix the unfixable, the stress you endured trying to decode their nonsense. All of that is finally and permanently lifted. You realize you were trying to keep afloat someone who was perfectly fine with actively drowning you instead. That profound relief is your ultimate, restorative reward. Your focus must shift entirely from merely surviving their chaos to actively creating your dream life, your masterpiece. Every healthy choice you make, every strong boundary you hold, and every moment of authentic joy you cultivate is a quiet, powerful message that they failed. You are living a life based on truth and inner strength. And that self-generated happiness is the ultimate, unassailable victory they can never twist or diminish. The most satisfying dimension of your victory isn't their visible downfall, it's your continued, complete, and unshakable inner peace. When they try to hoover you back with drama, manipulation, or desperate pleas, your sustained refusal to engage is the loudest, most definitive statement you can ever make. It communicates, with total certainty, that they are no longer worthy of your time, your anger, or your consideration. Their noise simply fades into meaningless background static. This is the victory that remains permanent. They cannot ruin the deep peace, the unwavering self-respect, and the genuine self-love you found after they were gone. The wounds they inflicted are now scars that prove your strength, not your weakness. They are lasting physical proof of a terrible, painful lesson that you learned, mastered, and decisively conquered. Your private, internal win is an absolute reality they can never again access or deny. See the profound gift this painful journey bestowed upon you. It taught you precisely where and how to draw the line. You now possess a powerful built-in shield against toxic behavior. Your emotional radar is perfectly tuned to spot manipulation instantly and reject it effortlessly. This hard-won wisdom is a priceless asset for the rest of your life, a direct result of the storm you walked through and emerged from entirely whole. Observe the powerful disparity that now defines your separation. They are still running frantically, looking for someone new to prop them up, forever needing an external reflection to feel real. But you pull your strength from deep inside yourself, from your own self-respect and the unassailable truth of your worth. This difference shows the huge, uncrossable chasm between being genuinely free and being trapped by the desperate need for control. Accept the final freeing truth. The peace you claimed is absolute and non-negotiable. The invisible agony the narcissist feels is entirely the result of their own pathology, and it can never reach you. Your escape is final, sealed by the solid barrier of your disengagement and the sheer, brilliant, unstoppable light of your authentic happiness. You achieved the satisfying ending they promised you'd never get. You made it through the fire, you found your way out of their dark world, and you came out whole, stronger, and fundamentally free. The narcissist's collapse is just the fading echo of a toxic past, but your healing is a magnificent, ongoing and powerful revolution. Never forget, they sought to possess your soul, but what they ultimately lost was control over the greatest treasure of all, your unshakable, self-sourced peace.